Part 2. Sonata Desk. Intro. Guys, did you would have thought, three writers out there, you don't need to suddenly put down whose POV is at the beginning. Or when it's time to change, we can figure it out on our own. We're not dumb. Although, considering the mindset of certain people who've watched Cinema Sins and the people who riff my fix, I might change my tune. The train station left the station at 7 a.m. The morning was crisp, cool, but bright and bearing a sky devoid of clouds. It promised a warm day, a sunny day, a day where people not so taken up with their little lives as to look up with a likely smile, feel their hearts lit to see such a glorious morning. A day that seemed like an insult to her, mocked her feelings and situations of her sister. "We'll be there in a few hours," said a tender voice. Sonata dragged her eyes away from the landscape, moving rapidly across the skyline, fixed onto the girl sitting next to her. Her eyebrows were plucked into a slight frown, and her bright blue eyes fixed on her with all affection. Perhaps that's what Sonata saw there. "I'm sure everything will be all right." "Jeez," Rainbow said across from him. "I'm still having trouble thinking about it." "Shouldn't you be studying?" Sunset asked, eyeing her beadily. "I guess," Rainbow said peacefully. "I'm just kind of surprised, I guess," she finished. She did take a look at. Sunset told Rainbow about the fine points of what had happened as they sat down. Rainbow finally asked why Sonata was coming too. Sonata was glad that Sunset didn't go into any particularly fine points on the matter. The details about Arya remained hazy to say the least. As far as Sonata knew, Adagio had been contacted by the hospital in Baltimore where Arya was being treated, and informed of what happened in accordance with the details of the police reports. She had been found in the street just over a week ago, bleeding and unconscious, apparently having been stabbed in the gut. So quickly rushed to the hospital. She had been in a coma until yesterday, when the hospital management had successfully discovered Adagio's place of residence in Applewood and contacted her. This information had been passed to Sonata the previous evening, but had clearly shocked Adagio over the phone. Sonata found that she had little memory of what happened between the phone call and Sunset's appearance. "I didn't think I cried for her that much," Sonata said tonelessly. Sunset squeezed her hand. "Oh, come on, you guys are friends," Rainbow said, waving a hand. "Of course you're gonna cry about it. You'd be the worst kind of scum if you didn't," she concluded. Sunset hissed something to her about being tactless. "It's okay," Sonata said, still in her sharp voice. "She's right. She's my sister. Whatever happened in the past between us entirely matters now." She tried to give what she hoped was a tearfully confident smile, but wasn't sure it came across that way. Sunset expressed it was just a little too understanding. Sonata's opinion of herself had improved under the administrations of Sunset Shimmer and her new friends. She laughed out loud to herself when she thought of her and her sister's attempts to conquer the world. They seemed like memories of another person, somehow unconnected to her in her current life. Pretentious, nonsense plans concocted by three silly girls whose opinions of themselves far exceeded their capabilities. Sunset Shimmer had saved her, she was sure of it. Saved her from committing the worst mistake she could have made in her life, ending it. She sometimes dreamed, stretched down on her futon in the dark hours of the night, of herself on that roof. Nightmares of the fall, the broken body, the lonely grave that no one visited or thought about. How lonely she felt during those sleepless nights. But these nighttime horrors never managed to pervade her daytime activities. She enjoyed her job, her hobbies, and her friends, and as her closeness grew together ever stronger, her old quirky naivete reasserted itself. She had people to love, and people to love her. Slowly but surely, the scars healed over. But this had been a journey of a single step towards happiness. The phone call yesterday had been a trapdoor leading back to step one. Thoughts of her sisters had long since stopped giving her that churning feeling in her stomach, and reminded her of her dark memories. But the thought of Arya hurt, or even dead, had reawakened the fears she had associated with the brightness period of her life. Self-doubt, tentativeness, and suspicion. As the train drew her closer and closer to where she knew Arya to be, these fears closed in on her, dampening down her rekindled whimsical cheeriness, bringing instead cold silences and concealed worry. The train trundled across the vast fields of Philadelphia. The wide open tracts of farmland seen as the breadbasket of the cities all around, stretching seamlessly endlessly. The train on its long, narrow tracks seemed like a single, piece of city life, stretching out like a giant clockwork or artery, carrying life-giving blood from city to city. Again, Sonata was struck by the normality of the day, of the utter indifference the world has had a hold to her suffering. At least this time, she reflected with little to no feeling of solace. She had friends to help her through it. The train pulled to the city much different from the one she knew and lived in for months now. The station was loaded with people walking this way and that, apparently unaware and unconcerned with the other people going about their own business. In several places, Sonata saw beggars sitting against walls, cardboard signs with illegible scrawl pleading for food and money. Sonata felt her insides begin to tighten at the sight of them, but tried to push away the memories that they arose. "So, where's the hospital?" Rainbow asked, trying not to get buffeted by the browsing pedestrians. "I think we should check over there," Sunset said, pointing to a tall sign bearing a detailed city map. Ignoring a man in a fedora huffing and tugging at them from behind, they traced the line to the city streets to the general hospital where Arya was allegedly being treated. "It's not too far away," Rainbow said, frowning, "but I don't like the look of these streets here." She pointed some of the route they would have chosen. "I think we should avoid those." "Agreed. I think we should stick to the main roads. Oh, and there's the testing center." She pointed to a small square bearing the symbol of an open book. "Sweet!" Rainbow amused. "That's only 5 streets over." "Man, I am so glad they moved the testing center from Baltimore to Philadelphia." "I know, and I'm surprised that Baltimore decided to bring Sunset over to Philadelphia, bring Arya over to Philadelphia to be treated for a stab wound instead of being done over at Baltimore." "I'm docking a point, Vic, for messing up a continuity gap in only one chapter." They soon found, much less the Sonata surprised in their own, that Baltimore was a straight. Fast fields of Philadelphia, Baltimore. Why did we go through all that setup of Philadelphia if we were just going to Baltimore? Why, Vic? Just say to the vast fields of Maryland onto Baltimore. I will say I like the fact that this fic is the only one I've read in existence where they decided that apparently Canterlot City is not in California. Get back here. They soon found, much less this is not a surprise in their own, that Baltimore was a strangely organized city. Most roads were one-way roads, which meant that in order to get to one's destination, one had to drive 3/4 down a single road and double back in order to get on the road he needed to be on. This presumably helped with the traffic congestion in some mysterious way, but Sonata could tell all the people unfamiliar with the city by their taut and irritable expressions as they drove by. She had traveled a lot in those days when she and her sister's magic was weak, trying to find something to do, somewhere to go, trying to make a plan. Even on the main roads, beggars sat or walked the streets, asking for change or trying to explain their circumstances to passer-by. Sonata didn't need Rainbow's warning to know not to talk back to them, but still made her uncomfortable. "When's your test time, Rainbow?" Sunset asked. 11 o'clock it says here," she said, pulling out her missus ticket. "You should probably get over to the testing center first then. It's about 10 now." Rainbow looked at both of them with concern. "You, sir? I could come visit you for a few minutes first." She was looking at Sonata more. Sonata tried to smile. No, it's fine. Go do your test. With obviously reservations about leaving them, Rainbow Mars softened down the street, looking once or back twice through the crowd. Sonata stood in the hospital, looking up at its tall, imposing girth. The building was modern and rounded, in creamy color with the words Baltimore General Hospital in large black letters over the entrance. It stood a little inland from the coast, the faint smell of salted sea rolling over them like every gust of spring breeze. Something inside of her was holding her back, stopping her to take that step across the little road to the hospital doors. She felt a hand intertwine with her own, and she looked down. You ready? Sunset asked gently. A little numbly, Sonata nodded. Sonata didn't believe that she would have been able to go to the hospital if Sunset wasn't with her. One hand slipped gently in the warm grip of the girl next to her, the other clutching her art folder to the side. They crossed the threshold of the hospital and were immediately met by the smell of antiseptic soap and old people. A fresh wave of uncertainty rolled over her. No, she thought. I got this far. It's Arya after all. I had to see her. Taking a more decisive step forward, she led the way to the reception desk where her family was standing. The mother, who was talking, had a child over her shoulder, stared at Sonata through the great interest, stretched out little pudgy hands as though trying to grasp her face. Here, guy! Sonata smiled, letting the baby grasp her finger. The baby drew questioningly at her, then let out a baby cackle and shook the figure happily. Next, said the man at the reception desk. The woman moved away, apparently ushering her other children ahead. Sonata and Sunset stepped forward. How may I help you? The man asked distractedly, scrolling down something on the clip file. We're here to see Arya Blaze, Sonata said, her heart tightening in her chest. The man glanced up, then pulled forward a small keyboard, tapping on it for a second. And he held suddenly and muttered an audible "Oh," as though he were looking at something painful. Is she all right? Sonata asked, really cold. Fifth floor, 423. He said, jabbing a ballpoint pen in the direction of the floor guide. ER recovery, sir. Sonata's heart twisted at the sound of ER. Is he okay? Sonata demanded, grasping hold of the desk. She got stabbed. What do you think? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you. The receptionist said, leaning his clip file again and sounding quite disinterested. Sonata felt a quick anger wash against her chest. She opened her mouth to say something, but Sunset forestalled her. Thanks, she said quietly, gently pushing Sonata ahead of her, moving away. I know you're worried, Sonata. You didn't even care, Sonata snapped. No, honey. There's something called the Hippocratic Oath. And there's also something called patient confidentiality. Unless we're sure that she's family, we can't tell you. We can't say a dang thing. We're not allowed. I'm sure he just has a lot of work to do, Sunset soothed, making motions for Sonata to lower her voice. I think his job just sensitizes him a little. Must have a lot of patience here. But he didn't even know she was okay, Sonata said, angrily blinking back tears. We'll see in a minute, won't we? After all, she's in the recovery center. Must mean she's recovering seriously. Sonata knew that Sunset was trying to be kind and uplifting, but she wasn't working. She felt sick, even since in her head of Arya laying comatose in bed, connected to all sorts of machines and readouts. The journey up to the third floor didn't help either. Signs side to side, the lit doors spelled an ominous message of antiseptic doom. Third floor, operating rooms, BC, decapitation center, intensive care unit, ER, recovery wards. Operating rooms, intensive care, decontamination. Horrible images slossed around in her mind of Arya on an operating table. Men and women, blue hospital attire, holding up sharp implements over her immobile, fragile form. Sonata swallowed down her imaginary tears. That would do her no good. They stepped to the corner into a mild human traffic, dodged out of the way of a bed being pushed speedily down a wide corridor, finally found themselves in another corridor with sliding glass doors. 19, 21. Sunset mumbled to the relative silence. He stopped in front of the window to Ward 23, the blinds of which obscured inside. Sunset looked at Sonata solicitously. You okay? Do you need a minute? No, I'm fine, Sonata said briskly. She coughed once or twice to force a smile. I'm fine, really. Let's go. So saying, she knocked gently on the door to herself. In the silence, the gentle taps were enough to sound through the corridor, but no answer came. Sonata peered around through the side of the blinds. Sunset appearing above the door heard to look at it as well. The interior of the room was dark, the blinds covering the windows having been turned to block the light. Nonetheless, they could see a figure laying on the bed. On second thought, Sonata said, is he sleeping? Maybe we shouldn't. Come on, Sunset interrupted, taking a hold of Sonata's forearm as he tried to turn away. With her other hand, she slid the door open. Arya did not stir at first when the sunset pulled Sonata firmly into the room. Sonata stood with her insides writhing and her brain seemingly trying to roll around in her skull. She pulled absently on her ponytail, unable to look away from the figure on bed. After several moments of high-quality dithering, Sunset tried to make the first move. Doing so made Sonata jump. Her sketch pad tumbled from her hand across the floor, sounded a great deal louder than usual in the near total silence of the room. The figure stirred in bed. Sonata's writhing insides disappeared, as though a hole had dropped them clean out of her, leaving her hollow. Arya sat up slowly in her bed, rubbing her eyes, flicked on the lights. Sonata stared at her. Her face was sunken, almost emancipated with the dark shadows under her eyes, paler skin than Sonata ever remembered her having. Her hair down out of its usual pigtails was equally discolored, as though someone breathed her with a form of bright vitality. The arm and hand raised to rub her eyes were thin, the skin covered in a patina of half-healed cuts and bruises. She blinked and blurrily for a moment or two, then seemed to find Sonata, dizzy with the sunset. Ugh, she said, her voice groggy. That was worth waking up for a moment there. Arya? Sonata asked cautiously. Yeah? Arya looked at her, as though expecting her same mode. How are you? Arya gave her a slightly annoyed look. How do I look? She asked, spreading her arms. She looked at Sunset again. What are you doing here? I'm here with Sonata, Sunset said, frowning slightly with her arms folded. Arya gave a small chuckle. You friends now? She asked. Sonata thought she heard a hum of derisive humor in the question, but she ignored it. We're roommates. Oh God, you're roommates, she said, trying to inject a little of her usual cheeriness into her voice. Arya laughed a little harder at that, though it seemed to cost her. She bent forward and coughed a little. Can you pass me that? Arya asked, pointing to a glass of water on the side table. Sonata hastily passed it to her, sipping the water as she looked between them. Roommates, huh? She shook her head and grinned as though she thought it was funny. That's just wow. Sonata frowned uncertainly, glancing sideways at Sunset Shimmer. We came here to see how you are, Sunset said. Sonata heard a coldness in her voice that she didn't quite understand. Adagio called us from Applewood. Arya's jaw tightened. She's doing well for herself, she sneered. What happened to you? She asked Sonata suddenly. Adagio dump you off with her before she left? She jerked her head at Sunset. Sonata couldn't think of a reply to this. She felt a vaguely familiar tear creeping over her, inside of her. She could only stare at Arya with her mouth slightly open. Sunset, on the other hand, was in complete control of herself, face flushed with color. She was glaring at Arya as though she wanted her to slap her. So, what happened to you anyway? She asked, her tone colder than ever. Arya's look of concern cracked as she directed a warning eye at Sunset Shimmer. I don't see what that's got to do with you, she replied, her tone calm, but icier than Sunset's. I thought you said you'd been stabbed, Sonata in tone, clutching her subject like drowning a person with flotation wing. Yeah. Arya made a sharp sound of disgust between her teeth. 3 times, she said, pushing her covers down, exposing a ring of bandages around her abdomen. Doctor said they broke my legs, too. You don't remember your legs getting broken? Sunset asked suspensively. Your powers of recollection are kind of dim when you lost a few pints of blood, Arya replied scathingly. So I guess the boss was too busy to come see me then. You sent you two to come instead. She went on, her voice positively drenched in sarcasm. Pressy know-it-all, good for nothing. She growled under her breath. She's only been there for a few months, Sonata said, feeling she should defend Adagio. Applewood's the other side of the country. I don't think she's gonna make it with... Yeah, I know where Applewood is, okay? Arya snapped. Sonata snapped in her mouth. She just explained why Adagio didn't come. Sunset snapped back, her arms unfolding. Shut up, Arya growled. What kind of gold do you have? Of all people in this miserable little world to come here and see me like this. To be frank, if I'd known how much of a ungrateful child you'd be, I would have bothered. I only came here to support Sonata. Arya's lip curled in an unpleasant grimace. You her nanny or something? Moron though she definitely is. I didn't think she needs you to hold her hand to buy a train ticket. Sonata felt utterly helpless at this point. And Arya calling Sonata moron, since its eyes flashed with fiery rage. She took a step forward, raising her right hand, instead of putting all on one hand to stop her, when the door behind her opened again. Through the door stepped a tall, wiry man in a long white coat, a smile plastered on him, and a short sprig of curly hair on his head. Oh, what's this? He said cheerily. I didn't know you had visitors coming. His smile remained, but Sonata could somehow tell he wasn't expecting them. For some reason, there being a small problem, he held tray of food in his hand. Oh, sweet lunch, Arya said enthusiastically. The doctor moved past the two girls and set the tray on a sling table next to the bed. Arya eagerly jumped on. Well, your appetite's a good sign. The doctor smiled, giving out the typical doctor's optimism. Very good. You'll have your safe back in no time. So, you two family? He asked politely, turning to Sonata and Sunset. Sort of, Sonata said awkwardly. I'm her sister. This is my roommate. Oh, good, the doctor said, pulling a folded piece of paper from his front pocket. He turned to Arya. Now that you're awake, we have a few things to run over, and I didn't know if you wanted to. He looked inquiringly between Arya and the other two, letting his sentence hang. To see what you had to say, Doc, Arya said between frenzied mouthfuls. Sonata's gaze lingered uncomfortably on Arya's pale skin and slightly sunken cheeks. She guessed he hadn't been eating well since he had last seen her. Righto then, he said. Well, we think that your stab wounds will make a full recovery with time. The stitches will dissolve after a while. No need to worry there. But that means they're a bit fragile, so no strenuous exercise for a few weeks. He cleared his throat. Second thing, do you have any assurance or means of paying for your treatment? I'm homeless, Arya said badly. The doctor's eyes flickered toward her back. I see, he said, his voice becoming rather less chipper than before. Well, of course, the life-threatening injuries have been attended to, so... He paused, as though he had something unfortunate to communicate. Arya seemed to sense this and narrowed her eyes. So what? He asked. The doctor hesitated for a moment or two or more. Sonata felt her heart breaking and being squeezed in her chest as the ominous miasma of pending bad news filled the room. Even Sunset looked a little troubled by the sun-dimming atmosphere. The issue, the doctor continued, the issue is that the law requires you to treat us in life-threatening situations, he said uncomfortably. We can't very well let you die. Personally, without insurance or any known means of payment, the hospital isn't required to offer you any further assistance. Are you kicking me out? Arya asked, her voice angry and trembling. No, the doctor said quickly. You'll remain until we deem you sufficiently healed to leave. The only problem is, well... He stepped to the edge of the bed and pulled out 3 x-rays, set them on a wall-placed light screen. Letting zero again, he twisted on and indicated the first x-ray. As you can see, indicated 2 main bones in the lower leg, which had clearly been severed in 1 or 2 places. The basic procedure for repairing broken bones is, of course, reline them and allow them to heal on their own. Problem is, here. He moved his finger towards the worst of the breaks. This area, I'm afraid, has been damaged to the point where we don't believe it will be able to heal naturally. What does that mean? Arya demanded before Arya could speak. Feeling cold inside, the doctor bit his lip. Under the usual circumstances, a simple surgery will be performed to aid in the healing process and maintain the bone's realignment. But as matters stand, allowing the bones to heal naturally will likely cause an irregularity in the leg. Like I'll have a lip or something? Arya asked, her throat sounding very dry. At the least, yes, the doctor confirmed. The level of damage is so intense, there's also a good chance the bone may become permanently brittle. You may never be able to walk again. Arya sat unmoving, unable to speak. Like ever? Sonata asked, terrified. The doctor looked quite uncomfortable. I'm afraid so. It may be that without surgery and company rehabilitation, You'll find it very difficult to walk, perhaps even impossible. After a few moments, he turned off the screen. Biting his lip, he asked if Arya had any questions. She didn't answer, but continued to stare into space. Can you give her the surgery? Sonata asked. The doctor scratched his chin. The hospital won't allow it if she can't pay for it, the doctor said quietly, not meeting her eye. The issue is not classified as life-threatening condition. But she won't be able to walk, Sonata cried. You'd do that to her. She asked, grasping his sleeve. He tried to pull back. Miss, please let go of me, he said firmly, trying to pry off a clenching hand. You can't. It's not fair. Sonata, stop. No. Miss, please calm down. Sonata, Arya muttered. Sonata looked around at her, freezing mid-pull. Arya? Could you? She swallowed. She looked different. Please leave. Sonata stared at her for a moment. The doctor managed to tug his sleeve from her slackened grip. But, Sonata began. She couldn't think of anything to say. Sighing a little, Sunset whispered in her ear. Come on, let's go meet up with Rainbow. See if she's finished with the test. No, we can't leave her like this, she turned to the doctor. Unless it's a surgery. The doctor hesitated. His mouth opened slightly. Well, he said, looking aside and scratching his chin again. There's a number of factors to be considered. Please get out, Arya said a little louder than before. Sunset, we could get the money, couldn't we? Sonata asked desperately. Sunset looked pale. Well, I don't... She joined in the room seemed somewhat frantic. The doctor was trying to outline the reasons why he couldn't give a definite figure, while Sonata tried to fiercely get Sunset to agree to help. All the conversation, however, ended as Arya grunted in fury. Get out! She screamed, furious tears in her dark-rimmed eyes. Get out or out! Her throat was cut off mid-shriek as Arya's back seemed to seize up. Suddenly thrust forward by the force of the spasms, she vomited a great deal of blood over the side of her bed. A growing dark stain appearing rapidly on the bandages around her middle. The doctor shunted Sonata and Sunset aside as he led towards the bed. I need help in here, he said as the monitor next to Arya's bed began to beep loudly. Arya! Sonata howled, trying to leap forward as well, but as 3 or 4 nurses bolted into the room that surrounded the bed, Sunset grabbed her around the middle and held her back. Arya! Arya! Get them out, the doctor ordered the 5th nurse, who separated them out close to blinds. Sonata threw herself to the door, ignoring Sunset's attempts to hold her back. You can't do anything now, Sunset said quietly. Pressed against the glass, breathing shallow and ragged, Sonata's world seemed to spin. She remained like that for she didn't know how long, listening to the discordant sounds from inside. Frantic beeping of the machines, muffled voices of the doctor and nurses, horrible gargling sounds of Arya choking on her own blood. All this washed over her, thoughts of the conversation they just had, and all of her dreads of feelings festering the previous night. An odd sense of coolness and sharpness overcame her mind. She finally felt an unaccountable need for some kind of action. No, I'm going to do something about this, Sunset blinked, surprised. You have an idea? No. Sonata punched herself off the door, trying to get to the floor to stop warping beneath her feet. No, I don't. But... She paused looking at Sunset. It was giving her some look of concern. Rainbow, she said, pointing at Sunset as though she thought something might help. She's probably in the testing center still, Sunset said, though wondering what Sonata could probably be bringing that up. No, we need Rainbow. She breathed. An idea so huge, overpowering, it seemed to press against the outside of her weary brain. We need our friends. I know what to do. We need to... She trailed off, a voice barely louder than a whisper. As she turned, ran up the corridor. Sunset jumped at the sudden movement and called after her, picking at Sonata's art folder from within the sliding door. She pelted off in pursuit. Sonata? Sonata, where are you going?